Hi, my name is Jim Shepard, W6US, and I'm addicted to contesting. Uh, this will be a little program here to get you going, and hopefully for the 7QP party coming up in a couple of weeks and uh, some others. So, why do we contest? Well, it's a good chance to work lots of other stations. Everyone says the bands are dead, but when we have a contest weekend, all of a sudden, all those dead bands come alive wall to wall with stations. And it's a good opportunity to get out there and talk to a few. It's a chance to get a rare one, especially with DX contests, or if you're into 6 meters, some of the VHF contests will let you get some rare grid zones. There's always a chance of winning an award, and your odds here in Nevada are very good. Um, if you pick your contest and what type of contest and how you are operating, it's a pretty good chance you could end up with a nice, like a wallpaper or even a plaque. It's a good opportunity to increase your operating skills. You'll learn how to dig stations out of the noise. You'll learn how to get proper copy, an exact copy. Because if you get the exchange wrong, you can actually be penalized for that. So it really sharpens your operating skills. But primarily, we do it for the fun of it, and it's just really a kick. It's a good way to get on the air and have a lot of fun. There's all types of contests out there. Probably the most familiar are DX contests. The DX ones get people on all over the world, and you get a chance to even make DXCC in a weekend. The North American only contests, like the sweepstakes or field day, are another good contest to get going. The QSO parties are pretty much North American contests, and they're available practically every weekend throughout the year. Specific frequency contests, such as 10-meter contests, the 160 top band contests, the VHF contests. Some are done by modes. There's a single sideband weekend or a CW weekend for the sweepstakes, two different contests depending upon modes. The work any and all station contests. These are a lot of fun. The CQ magazine WPX contests are of this type, where basically you're wanting to get the prefix on any call is a multiplier, and so you're wanting to work as many different stations as possible, both here in the U.S. and around the world, to get as many multipliers as possible. The DX contests are probably best known. There's two big groups of them, ARRL and CQ Magazine. The ARRL are late winter season, February into March, and or January actually into March, and the DX contest for CQ Magazine will be in the fall season. Okay, what do you need to contest? Well, obviously you need a radio, and a radio, just about any radio you use can be used. Uh, what really makes a difference, rather than the radio, is the antenna. Uh, to get 3 dB a gain additional on your radio, it's going to cost you some big bucks. To get 3 dB gain on antennas is a piece of cake, and you can do it with a trip to Home Depot and buying some wire. Uh, so that's really what's needed. You need a method to log. Basically, you're going to send in a log at the end of the contest. So you have to have some way to acquire the figures. It can be a sheet of paper and a pencil, but just about everybody's using a computer. And you got to have some interest in doing it. And it's just fun getting out there and doing it. And if you get hooked, you will add equipment, I guarantee you. Yeah. Okay, these are a couple of contest station locations. K9CT is using a flex radio Mastro, and he's got it all set up there. Um, he has two monitors. One he's running the logging program on, and the other one he's running, it looks like some assistance, band maps, downloading from a cluster, etc., to get spots. WHJI is using an Elecraft like I use, and he also has a Yaesu here as a backup or second radio. He may be working SO2R, which is single op 2 radio, which it'd be on a different band so he can switch back and forth between them quickly to work on two bands. Again, he's got his logging program, and he's got his spotting information. It's his antenna rotor and other antenna switches. He has a nice headset and pretty nice setup. Now these are a couple of the big boys. You probably use a little more modest setup than this. We'll show you one here in a minute. Now, as I said, antennas are the key to the whole thing. Uh, this is a real contest station. This is Tom K5RC's place up there on Virginia Highlands. As you come over the top there, coming up Geiger Grade, um, you'll see this dead ahead and go, wow. And he has like three big beam antennas, all on the same frequency. They're all pointed in the same direction. It gives him additional gain. And this is why he's able to find some of the weak ones. And then with 1500 watts crammed into these, he definitely can talk to them too. They say a lot of us use a little more modest setup. This is mine out at Winnemucca. I've got a tri-bander at about 65 feet, and I'm operating out of a camper. And inside there, we have my Elecraft, and we have the P3, which is the pan adapter, and I have it displaying up here on the big screen. This is real handy to see where there's spots in the band. Now right here, there's a spot that looks fairly quiet, and I would probably go there if I was running and ask if the frequency is free and jump on there and start calling CQ. So this could be a real handy device. My computer for scoring, and I've got headsets. Down here I've got a buck and boost converter and my power monitor to make sure my batteries are okay. I run on battery power, and the buck and boost converter makes sure I've got 13.8 volts for the radio all the time. And then on the floor, I do have a foot pedal, which I use to key the transmitter. And then, very important, especially in the late hours, is the caffeine delivery device. Okay, one of the things that characterize the contest is you have an exchange you give. It can be all sorts of things. It can be a serial number. You start with number 1, 2, 3, so on as your contacts roll up. You'll hear people with numbers in the thousands by the end of the weekend. Signal report. This is another favorite one. We universally use either 59 or 599 for a signal report. No matter how far down in the dirt they are, how many times you have to have them repeat to get the copy, use a 59. And the logging programs automatically enter those two numbers, and you have to go back and erase them and then type in the other if somebody gives you the other way. People giving real reports generally are first-time contesters or people just jumping in to get a contact or two and that. But all the contesters use 59 or 599, and now that you've seen this, you'll know to do that too. If you want to make a note of it, the real report later on for somebody who wants the real report, you can give it to them. But for the log purposes, use 59 or 599. States, sections, zones. States are used for a lot of contests. The ARRL sections are used primarily for U.S. Based contests, and they have all the 84 ARRL and Radio Amateurs Canada (RAC) sections. And we just added one this last year, Prince Edward Island. So we're up to 84 now. Grid squares are popular for VHF contests. You'll find that they generally just use the 4-digit grid zone like Delta Mike 09, which is the one here for the Reno area. I'll be out in Delta November 10 there in Winnemucca. So they're 1 degree by 2 degree square, actually rectangle, but they're called grid squares. And using those and even the 6-digit ones, which add 2 more letters, 6-digit ones can be used to actually get your mileage between you and the other station. There's other items that are used. Some contests use your first name, some will use a checksum or a precedence, so on. Let's look at an exchange. Okay, at the bottom here, I would be talking to Whiskey 1AW, and I would be giving him a 123, which is my serial number. A alpha, that is my precedence, lets them know what power I'm running, which is low power. My call sign. It's a checksum, which is actually the year I was first licensed. And of course, my section, which is Nevada. So it'd be Whiskey 1AW, please copy 123 Alpha W6US 902 Nevada. Contest terminology. Like anything else, we have our own language. One thing you'll hear is dupes. Dupes are duplicate contacts, and work them. There are no penalty in modern contests for working and logging dupes. Let me repeat that again. There are no penalties, no sanctions, no nothing for working dupes and having them in your log. So work them. What there are penalties for are not in the log. So if you call someone and he says, you're a dupe, and I immediately come back with, you're not in my log. And that wakes them right up and work it again. And yeah, maybe a dupe there, but that way he definitely gets the credit for logging me. And because I will now be in, he will now be in my log for doing the dupe. So don't throw them out. Don't get argumentative. Just work them. In fact, I generally don't even say it's a dupe if somebody calls me. I'll just go ahead and work them. And that way we're covered. Okay, to win a contest, you have to perform this act. It's called BIC. That's butt in the chair. BIC. And you want a comfortable one? The more time you spend in front of the mic, sitting there in your chair, the higher the score you're going to put in. Search and pounce. This is a technique where you tune up or down the band and find a station. And if you see you need him, you barely call him when he calls CQ or QRZ, and pounce on him and put him in the log. Running is the opposite side of that. That's where you're actually found a clear frequency, and you're calling CQ, and the search and pouncers are coming and finding you. For each one of these, each contact, one person's going to be search and pounce, and the other is going to be running. So that's a key thing. Running works great for things like the 7QP and the Nevada QSO party. Sweepstakes, fairly good. There's a lot of people who are looking for Nevada, and you're the wanted DX, and you'll get to learn about pileups here in a little bit. Split We don't use split too much in contests, but you should know how to do it. Um, in some contests, for instance, the foreign stations can operate in parts of the band where we can't operate, but we can hear them there and we can talk to them up in our part of the band and back and forth. So we're working split. It's used really heavily in for DX work, um, and that quite often you get a big pile up. You'll say listening up five, and they'll be transmitting 5 kilohertz above you where you're actually talking, and this way makes it easier for everybody to hear. You all should be used to using split because that's what we use on repeaters. Repeaters are split. Multipliers. It'd be a dull contest if we just went on the number of contacts. Uh, if you can make 10 contacts with somebody here in Nevada, you'd have 10 points. However, if you work 10 contacts with people in different states, 10 different states, you'd have 100 points because they multiply. And this is the way you get some of those big scores, and it breaks the scores apart enough so you can see, oh, I only missed him by 20 points, which was probably one contact or one multiplier, depending on uh, how many contacts were in the log. And of course, for log, you're going to turn in a Cabrillo log. This is very important. Cabrillo logs have a special format and all that. They look like this. Here we have a log. It has a header, and the header contains information. The first word right off the top tells it what version of Cabrillo it's using. Location. Location for us will be Nevada, or if you're in California, depending upon the contest, it'll either be CA for California or like SV for Sacramento Valley, which you have in Truckee there. My call sign, pretty obvious. The club, you want to make sure your club's listed in here. And since we're kind of a new, quote, new contest club, unquote, for ARRL contests, we are the Sierra Nevada ARS. For CQ Magazine contests, we are Sierra Nevada Amateur Radio Society. Spell the whole thing out. Later on, we may get to the point where they'll put us down as SNARS, but right now the club is either Sierra Nevada ARS or Sierra Nevada Amateur Radio Society. Okay, I'm operating as a single operator. I do all the operating functions, etc., and I'm not assisted. I'm not using a cluster or other type of aid that would put me in the assisted class. We'll talk more about that in a minute here. I'm running all bands for this contest. I'm in mixed mode, and which means I was actually running phone and I was running JT8. I was running low power, which is 100 watts in my case. Fixed station, it wasn't moving around. I was running 2 transmitters. Basically, I had one transmitter on the 6-meter band and one transmitter on 440 and 70 centimeters. So that's why I'm 2 transmitter. Had a claim score of 32. We won't get to that. Call sign. Again, that's the operator. Soapbox. This can be added afterwards. And it happened to be very, very poor band conditions. I couldn't even get a JT65 contact on 6 meters. It was that bad. The name, address, so on. And then it has a created by line, which has the programmer, N1MM, and the version number. It's a very, very rare situation that there's something wrong with the overlay used by your contest logger. But it does happen. And as a result, let's say it was putting an X in behind all the grid zones here, and that X would totally mess up the scoring program. After about the third or fourth one that gets kicked out for that, the contest sponsors are going to realize there's a problem with uh, that contest logger. It's not the operator's problem. It's the logging program's problem, and they can put a fix in the scoring program, take that X out of there. That's just an example in that. These are your contacts, and they contain the band. These are all phone contacts, the date, the time in UTC, my call sign. This is the report I sent, which was out there at Winnemucca, Delta, November 10. This is the call sign of the station I worked and their location. And they were in DN10 or in one case, DM19, which is Mount Moses down in southeastern corner of Pershing County. And he was up there on an expedition. And then into the log to finish you out. Use of assistance. We talked about assisted here a moment ago. There's spotting networks. These used to be on packet, and you could have another radio running there, and they're scrolling across your CRT screen. Yeah, remember those green screens with the green letters on the black background? Yeah. Well, that's where they were going. For you new guys, you've forgotten about those type of monitors. And it scrolls across and shows who's working who, and you can tune to that frequency, and hopefully you find the station you're looking for. Now it's done on the internet and quite effective. There's also multi-signal decoders. With the advent of SDR receivers that basically decode the whole bandwidth, these will take and look at that, and on CW we'll see the CQ and then the call sign, or the call sign and the CQ, but they little artificial intelligence pull that out, and then they can list it as a list here of a call sign and frequency and call sign and frequency and so on. So you can immediately click on those and then go over to it changes your radio right to that frequency, and you can hopefully work them. Okay. Transmitter power. Basically, QRP is 5 watts and under. Really no biggie there. That's pretty universal. Low power can be 5 watts to 100 or 150, depending upon the rules of the contest. ERL usually goes to 150. CQ usually goes to 100. So that's that. And then high power, which is from the 150 or 100, 150 up to the maximum allowed power. And I'm going to underline that. Maximum allowed power. That doesn't mean 1501 watts. That means 1500 here in the US. You'll hear stations, yeah, boy, will you hear them, on the other side of the world that are coming in at 40 over S9 and claiming they're low power. They're not. So the FCC watches this pretty carefully, and you might see a ice cream van with a bunch of antennas on it parked out in front of your place during the contest. You're being checked out. More importantly, your signal quality and splatter and excessive bandwidth. A lot of times going to this high power, not having it set up right, you can put out a pretty ugly signal. And that. If you have a nice clean signal, you're staying in the bandwidth nice and tight, you're going to be putting all the power out right there, not spreading it across the band. and you'll do well. Another thing, it's called a signal processor. This takes and chops some of the low end and some of the high end off of your voice. Um, Quite often they don't go through the radio real well. Uh, a lot of us older guys have lost a lot of our hearing up above 2000 hertz or so. And by packing all that audio power in the main part of the voice, you can do real well. Now, these can be overused, so it's best to set it up with a friend across town before the contest. So he still confirms that you sound like you normally do, but you're just have a good sharp hitting power, and that'll help you make contacts. If you use it too much, muddled, and it's hard to read. You have to dig through that. So good use of a signal processor can help. Too much and you're in trouble. Operating modes. Single op is by far the most popular mode. That's you doing all the operating and controlling of the rig and everything by yourself. You do the logging and that. You can have a significant other bringing you hot and cold food and the appropriate beverages. That is not considered multi-op. It's just a big help. Multi-op single radio is another very popular mode. This where you invite a few friends over. It probably isn't as popular right at the moment with the COVID-19, but in the past it has been. Anyway, you invite a few over. You take turns, hour or 2 hours on the radio. About the time you start getting hoarse and all that, you swap operators and continue on. In the meantime, the other operator is sitting there with a tall, cool one and making all sorts of snide comments about your operating skills. Now, Moldy, this is the big boys screwing. K3LR, Tim Duffy back there in the east, and Tom K5RC, and some of the others run Moldy, and they have multiple transmitters and receivers running at the same time on different bands, and multiple operators running them, and they switch out. They may have up to 30 operators over a contest. So yeah, they always have a fresh voice on there. Mobile, or as VHF group calls them, rovers. This is where you go around from county to county or state to state or grid zone to grid zone and operate in different locations. And every time you change jurisdiction, it's like you're starting your log fresh again. So you can work the same people again and again. But the other side of the coin is you're providing access and contacts in counties and grid zones and states where they don't have a lot of operators or none at all, and providing contacts and multipliers for folks. So that's a good way to go if you got the gear to do it. If you don't, portable expeditions are fun. This is kind of a mini field day. You pack up the family and the motorhome or the car and head out somewhere in the boonies on the state QSO parties like the 7QP or Nevada QSO party. You can park on county lines between two counties, and this lets you give out both of the counties at the same time. So you basically are making two contacts at once. And another way to get to rare places like Humboldt County. We've got lots of operators up there. We can't get them on the air. Hint, hint. Anyway, there's lots of places in Nevada you can go. And right now, a lot of these county lines and 3 county locations and that sort of thing are out completely in the boonies. You're away from everybody, so you're basically staying isolated. You can always operate from home. And there's lots of advantages to home. You've got your main rig set up, everything works, your antennas have been fine tuned, you've got great climate control. Uh, if you work it right, you'll have hot and cold running food and drink available. The sanitary facilities are nice, so on and so forth. So, home fixed is another good one. There's some useful equipment besides the stuff we mentioned earlier. A pair of headsets really, really are needed. This blocks out the sound, be it from the heater or fan, or the kids screaming, or dog barking, uh, air conditioner running, so on and so forth. It gets all that noise out. Plus, you can actually hear better with the headsets. They should fit you comfortable because you're going to be having them on for a long period of time. A boom mic. You don't want to use a handheld mic. Boom mic either can be attached to the table at home or, much better, actually being on your headset as part of that. That way, the mic's always in the same position relative to your mouth when you turn your head to look at the frequency on the radio, turn it the other direction to look at something else, and looking up at the screens and looking down at your feet to see where you dropped that item, um, so on and so forth. So that works very, very well, and it keeps your voice consistent throughout the time. Foot pedal for transmit keying. Um, this keeps your hands free so you can type on the keyboard on your logging program. You get real good with these after a while. You want good lighting. You don't want glare off your screen so you can't see the screen. You want to be able to read the fine print on the front of your radio, so you can hit the right one to hit the preamp instead of hitting the attenuator, so on and so forth. So good lighting really helps out. And you want some decent climate control. It's with frozen fingers, it's hard to type or use the key. Uh, when the sweat's running into your eyes, it's hard to see the screen. Some other operating aids. You should always have a pencil and paper, even if you're computer logging. Obviously, if you're logging on paper, you'll need this, but uh, you may need to jot a note down to the side. For instance, you work a fellow who comes back and says, "Oh, good, I got Nevada. I've been trying to get Nevada for 10 years for my WAS. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Do you QSL?" You go, "But yes, I'm on Logbook of the World." "Okay, well, thank you. Okay, it'll be there in a couple of days. W6US clear. QRZ, so on. I'd continue on, but um, I'd make a note off to the side because I probably would go ahead and send him a paper QSL for his WAS. The computer can do other things than just run the logging program. You can have some of the other aids available in a reduced window that you just click on and up it pops and there information is. Um, they can have things like the frequency charts, where you can have those in hard copy. 3 in the morning, trying to remember where the band edge is on 15 meters when you haven't been up there in a long time due to the poor solar conditions. Now let's see, is that 21 350 or 450 or where is it? So having a frequency chart helps. A state section provenance list. Uh, Obviously, you're going to know Nevada, November Victor. However, the guy at the other end may not know it. And if you just say Nevada, uh, he's liable to put down NE for because it's NEVADA, and he thinks that's correct. Well, he just moved you all the way to Nebraska. Who wants to operate in Nebraska? Anyway, also they may come back and they don't know their abbreviation. You'd be surprised how many people you'll hear, especially on field day, where they're giving the section and they have no clue what the abbreviation is. So you take a quick look at the sheet and get the right abbreviation to put in the logging program. Spectrum analyzer, pan adapter. I showed that on my station, and it was in little windows on the other stations, and that's been a real help. It's helped my contesting pretty dramatically. Especially if you're going to be using a pencil and paper to log, you'll need a 24-hour clock set to UTC. This is really, really, really important, as you'll have to report all your contacts with UTC timing, not local timing here in Reno. So having that clock can really help. Cough drops. After the 2000th time you've gone CQ contest, Whiskey 6, Uniform Sierra, Whiskey 6, Uniform Sierra, QRZ, your throat's going to get a little raspy, and the cough drops really can help on that. 3 in the morning, this one is self-explanatory, having the caffeine. Computer logging. There's all sorts of programs available out there to log with. Most of you probably have one they use every day for log your contacts with friends. However, those general purpose programs really aren't set up for a contest. They may not be able to export a Cabrillo log. They may have too many boxes that need to be filled out before you can switch to the next contact, wanting things like the XYL's name, make a car, the rig, so on and so forth. And it doesn't really have a space to put that 5.9 Nevada in. So they're generally really not that suitable for contest use. N1MM logger is the way to go. About 3/4 of the people out there who regularly contest use N1MM. 3/4 of them. Virtually all the big guns use N1MM. It's absolutely free. Full working program, works for ever. There's upgrades that you can get on a weekly basis for they take care of adding new contests or new rules to contests and that sort of thing. They keep adding new features. It's an outstanding program, and the price is absolutely right. And that's what we're going to show bits and pieces of from here on out. This is a picture of my screen for a contest. This particular contest was when I was developing the NVCON party, and this was a couple years back, and as a result, we were using serial numbers back there instead of just signal reports. The only window you really need up is this one right here. This is your entry box. You can put the call sign in here. Once you hit the space bar or tab, the sent and receive numbers will come up. This will increment, by the way, on a serial number. So it'd be 12 actually if I had put a call sign in here. And then it'll put the exchange you copied from them. And it logs it down here. This log would probably be the second window you'd open. You can do these by going here to Window, and all these can be found under Window. And this shows my last contact was with Danny out there, KG7QIA, and it was on 40 meters. And I know it doesn't correspond here saying lower sideband and 7182, but I was in manual mode. I did not have it hooked to the radio when I did this. So it just used the same 40 meter frequency. It's not a problem because the scoring programs look at this and they say, okay, he's on 40 meter lower sideband. It shows the date, the time, call sign of the station that I worked, uh, frequency, their mode, what report they sent, and then where they were coming from, their exchange location. Now, some of these were in Nevada. It was in Arizona. We had a DX, Florida, Texas. I was putting together a log to test the scoring and uh, actually build the log for N1MM. And we're finding problems. That's why there's an error here. Well, you can kind of ignore that, but it tells me whether this was a multiplier. Multipliers are good. Next window I put up generally is a score, and it keeps track by band and how many QSOs I've had on that band, the point value of those QSOs, multipliers, and points per QSO, and that. It shows I have a total score of 216 at this point. Now, if you look up here on your main screen again, it shows there's 14 contacts and 19 multipliers, which same as shows on here, and that I have scores 216. So you don't really need this one, but this is just nice to know that, yeah, right now the best band looks to be 40 meters, what I was doing. This little window shows, I've set it up to look at multipliers. And so I've worked in Connecticut, Florida, Texas, and so on, California, so on out here. This was a little different. I had to trim this to fit here on the screen for the PowerPoint. So that's why you're not seeing the full screen. This is what's called a dupe sheet. Now this is kind of handy because it will list all the number 3 call signs down here. And I can glance up here quickly and say, oh, I've already worked him, and continue scrolling up or down the band if I'm doing search and pounce. It's a big help. Okay, how do you log a contact? Well, if you're using pencil and paper, you should have made up some sheets ahead of time with columns for all the necessary information. Exchange sent, if it isn't changing, like, we're going to be using signal report of 5.9, that's not a problem. You don't need to worry about putting it down there. But if you're putting serial numbers that are changing every time, you need to have a column for that. Exchange receive, and a spot out the end for comments. Logging programs have entry boxes for all those elements, and they automatically record the time and frequency, which is really handy if they're connected to your rig. Search and pounce. Okay, I usually listen, and I'll hear them call, and when I copy the call sign, I will take a look either at that dupe sheet or maybe just quick glance down at the log, see if I worked them recently, or I may remember that I worked them. Toward the end of the contest, you'll hear some of the same people over and over and over again up and down the band, so you pretty much know you've worked them. But if you type it in, and it shows your dupe, and I'll show you that here in a minute, then you can get ready to start working them. They'll give a CQ, or they'll finish a contact and say Q or Z, and then give your whole call phonetically. And I'm going to really stress whole call. You'll hear people going Alpha Bravo, Alpha Bravo, Alpha Bravo, just giving your suffix. No, give your whole call. Hopefully they'll call you back. And then they call you back. you can answer with your whole exchange. Depending on how well they're hearing you and all that, they may call you back and give you their exchange at this point, or they may have a partial. Uh, Say they come back to me and say Uniform Sierra only. I'd come back Whiskey 7 Uniform Sierra, and then I'd be in big trouble, wouldn't I? I see that's too many hours in the contest. Whiskey 6 Uniform Sierra. Um, so make sure you get it right. Answer with your complete exchange. And they'll ask for fills or they'll give you their exchange. If you copy everything, just QSL thanks and move on to the next one. You'll hear them call another station or CQ. Then tune up or down the band to find the next station. If you tune, I usually tune up the band on the upper sideband and down the band on lower sideband because it sounds the same going into the contact. So I tend to get into the sweet spot on his voice to be able to know I'm zero beated with him and he'll be able to hear me. And before you go up or down the dial, be sure to log the station and the exchange. Now here I mentioned this dupe. I typed in the call sign and the big red dupe came up and stared me in the face. And I just happened to look down at the log and I'd worked him 30 minutes earlier on the same frequency. So it was time to spin the knob and move up and find somebody else. Running. It's the other side of search and pounce. This is where you sit on a frequency and operate. When you find a clear frequency, ask if it's in use. Is this frequency in use? No. That's you kind of wonder about that one. But they'll say yes, and you come back W6 US clear and move on to another frequency. And that. So once you got the frequency, then you call CQ and you repeat the critical items twice. Once you've done it, listen for 5 seconds. So it goes something like this. CQ contest, Whiskey 6 Uniform Sierra, Whiskey 6 Uniform Sierra, QRZ. CQ contest, Whiskey 6 Uniform Sierra, Whiskey 6 Uniform Sierra in Nevada, QRZ. Okay, see how I waited about 5 seconds there? That gives time for the guy to see Whiskey 6 Uniform Sierra. He's managed to slowly type it in to his logging program. It shows that I'm a good contact, and he starts talking. Well, if I only wait a second, I'm calling CQ again, right on top of him, and we never match up. So give him 5 seconds to answer back. Repeat till you get an answer. If you don't get their full call, you get a pileup going, and all you hear is Alpha Bravo. You can call and get their call sign. And get their call sign before you give a report. That's important. A lot of these folks running across quickly or search and pouncing, especially big gun stations. When they get your report, they're off to the next station, and they've turned the dial. No way, they won't hear you calling back to confirm. Okay, once you have your full call sign, then give your exchange. If they gave the exchange already, you can come back with thanks and your exchange. Otherwise, copy and then come back and ask for fills, etc. And then thanks, Whiskey 6 Uniform Sierra QRZ. Who's calling me? And you notice what's right before the QRZ? My call sign. Always give your call sign when you're calling QRZ or CQ. This way, people don't have to wait around. You'll find people out there that will go 10 times or more without giving their call sign, just working QRZ, 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 and working stations. And you sit there waiting, and then they finally get the call sign out. Uh, it's a dupe. So you've been waiting there for nothing. Anyway, if no one comes right back to you, then resume calling CQ. And sounds like that again. CQ contest, CQ test, Whiskey 6 Uniform Sierra, Whiskey 6 Uniform Sierra, QRZ. And I vary it around. It keeps them guessing. And that. Now, if your radio can record this or the software, and N1MM software will record it. I don't use it, but you can. It'll save your voice. Now, test it before the contest. Make sure that that exchange or that calling CQ or again, it's another one that gets used a lot. Any of those that you save sound like you do when you're talking on your mic. Ideally, you're recording it off the audio stream going into your radio. And then that's what's going to go back out. So you sound the same, it's the same level, etc. Otherwise, it can be very confusing to the folks on the other end. There are folks out there that will record a young lady calling CQ and come back with a gruff, hoarse voice. And you're not sure who you're working. Okay, pileups. Your initial one will be when you hear some rare island out in the Caribbean, and you'll hear everybody and their brother calling them. You'll see your uh, meter go up about S40 over S9 in the pileup, and you're actually not really hearing many call signs. You're just hearing this of noise and that. So listen to the whole thing, how he's responding. There's several things he's liable to do. If he's mostly calling stations that you're hearing at the late or end of the pileup, that's when you want to call. So you may hear you hear it starting to fade, and then you stomp on the foot switch there and go, Whiskey 6 Uniform Sierra. Always give your full call sign phonetically. Even if they're answering only with a partial call, always give your full sign. And if it's your partial call they're coming back with, give your full call sign when you give your report. They're giving a partial that's not part of your call. The Whiskey 6 only, Whiskey 6 only. Alpha Bravo 4, Alpha Bravo. You'll hear that. You'll hear people jump in like that. Don't do it. Don't be one of those guys. If they're calling Asia only, unless you just hopped on a fast jet and over to Japan, don't answer back. Let them go those areas. We all rotate around. Under running a pileup, we'll talk about that a little more. Okay, if you're running, try to respond to full call signs only. That way you've got it, you've dupe checked it, you know that he's ready to go. Occasionally you'll hear some, after you've worked a bunch of big ones, you may hear somebody just down in the noise, you may just get a partial on them. Yeah, that. Give them a shot at it too. They'll thank you. They're going to appreciate it more than the big gun, because he's probably already worked a couple of Nevada stations. This little guy down below maybe has never worked a Nevada station, or you're going to be a new multiplier for him, or something else. So give the weak ones a chance. Don't just key on doing weak ones, but try to work the weak ones. And you may have to say, hold up, everybody, I've got a weak one in there. The ending in whiskey only. And most of the guys will stand by. Big pile up, break it by calling by the numbers. Sixes only, six only, and work a few sixes. 2 to 4. Don't just sit there and work sixes for the next half hour. 2 to 4 usually is good. Then move on to the sevens. Once you've gone through once, you may realize that you had no zeros and no ones. So next time around, you start at 2 and go that way. Same for working geographic areas. Um, grid zones. I had a big pile up one time that I had about 3 different of the major first 2 letters of the grid zone. And so I said Echo Mike stations only. And then I was Echo Lima stations only. Uh, and was able to break the pile up a little bit. I had close to 30 stations calling. It took me an hour to clear the pile up. That was great. I loved it. Special situations. Um, Especially on DX contests, you're going to find you're going to have a lot of non-English as their primary language speakers out there. In fact, most of them just know a little bit of ham radio English and that. And they may have trouble copying your call sign or exchange. So say we normally use the standard phonetics, but uh, if they're not getting it, go to using geographic locations. For me, Washington 6, United States seems to break pileups pretty good. But, also I use Whiskey 6 Uniform Sugar, Whiskey 6 United Santiago, Whiskey 6 Uniform Santiago, or Whiskey 6 Uruguay Santiago for South American stations, so on. A lot of these can help out if you use, say, a very definite phonetic in their language. That quite often can help. However, be prepared if you do that to get your rest of your report sent to you in Spanish or Portuguese or Japanese or whatever. Sometimes that can backfire. Computer programs problems. Obviously, have your paper log available to cover. Usually, one of the major problems that's had, you bump something without realizing it. Your USB cables unplugged or something like that, or partially plugged, and you lose contact with the radio. And at that point, you can switch to a manual mode on the N1MM logger, and most other loggers. So you can merely keep putting them in the log. It'll have the time right. The frequency will either be the last one you worked on that frequency, like you were seeing on those programs that I showed, and that. And if you change frequency, be sure to make the change in the logger using the normal methods. N1MM, you can click on the band, or you can put in the whole band frequency in kilohertz. So 20 meters would be 14000, and it'll change to 20 meters. If you need to reboot the computer, again, continue paper logging until Windows takes its sweet time to go through and get you up running again. Okay, it's now 00 hours on Sunday afternoon, UTC. It'll actually be Monday morning by that time. The band has suddenly died. You don't see a signal up and down the band. That was a minute ago was wall to wall. It's the end of the contest. Okay, there's a little post-processing you do at this point. In N1MM, you can go up to Files, go down, and it says Make Gorilla Log. You can click on that, and it'll make it. It'll ask for verify a couple of entry points in terms of your operating mode and that sort of thing. But then it'll make it, and then it'll ask you if you want to edit it. And if you click yes on it, it'll bring it up on the screen so you can actually look at it. You can see all the contacts you've made. You can look at the header information, which is what I primarily do. Just make sure that, yeah, this is an ARRL contest and I got the club name right, which is, that's right, ARRL contest, Sierra Nevada ARS. CQ magazine contest would be Sierra Nevada Amateur Radio Society. Okay. You need to send it in promptly. CQ magazines are now all 5 days. They're running a week, 7 days for most of the ARRL contests. Some of them, some of the sprints and short-term programs, you have a couple hours to get them in. So get them in properly. Again, be sure to list the club and no log washing. Yeah, you had the tape recorder running for the whole contest. So now you turn it on to play and you relive the contest. And oh, hey, I've misblew his call sign big time. Let me change that. That's called log washing. We don't do that. That's part of the reason why it's been shortened up to 5 days, is to avoid that sort of thing. And just don't even think about it. But the first rule is always send in a log. Really important. You only have 5 contacts on it, send it in. It can help somebody else. There's 2 ways it can help. One, it can confirm a contact. And odds are, if you're only making a few contacts, you're going to be kind of a unique call sign out there. And the contest sponsors look at unique calls in logs. And by God, you send in a log and it's confirmed, the time's right. Hey, you're no longer a unique call. You're confirmed, and this guy probably's playing by the game correctly. So always send in that log. Paper logs. Most sponsors have a limit on the size of a paper log and require a dupe sheet or something else in additional. Definitely have to have a some sort of entry form with it with all the what would be the header information on Cabrillos. You have to have all that information. If you use a computer to print the log in any way, shape, or form, even if you're using a word processing program to type it up all nice and neat, you're going to have to send a Cabrillo log in the format. So they figure if you got a computer, okay, you need to send a Cabrillo. We have a 10 list, 10 call requirement as a max size on a paper log for the Nevada QSO party. Okay, there is a website out there, and I'm sorry this doesn't read real well. I have a handout that I'll post that you can get this information and all the other URLs that are in here. But it's whiskey/cabforms cab forms. That can be, you go to there and you can actually turn the information from paper log or a spreadsheet or a non-contest log, or I think you can even do an ADIF and be able to come up with a log. You got to get them in on time. If you're going to use a paper log or mail something, be sure, especially if you're taking it in the last day, to go in the post office and get it hand stamped so it shows. If you just put it in the box, that box may not be open until the following morning with tomorrow's date on it, and you've lost. Sponsor may have an email or a web where he wants you to send them electronically, and the rules of the contest will definitely make that clear where you're to send that. Again, post has to be postmarked. Electronic entry is preferred by all sponsors. Believe me, it is so much easier to handle one because we're going to run it through a computer for scoring, etc. And the paper logs we've received in the past for CQ or for the Nevada QSO party, that means I have to go to that website, Bruce's website there, and type them in myself. So please send in electronic format. And in the electronic format, sure to read the rules about how they want that file labeled. The standard is callsign.log. That'd be your call sign. In my case, it'd be W6US.log. Send it in that way. It's titled there. We know who the log belongs to. Further in the scoring process, we can always take a quick look and go, okay, that belongs to W6US, so on and so forth. It really helps. So be sure to read the rules on how that's named. There's some additional logging you want to do. Okay, I mentioned ADIF file. That's a standard interchange file that's used between logging programs to confirm contacts. The ADIF file is what you also upload to Logbook of the World. And Logbook of the World is, you all should have an account with them, and really is a good way to confirm contacts. The ADIF file can also be imported into like HRD or some of your day-to-day logging programs. So all those contacts are in there also. But you don't send an ADIF file to the contest people because it doesn't have your contest exchange in there. Aha. Let that sink in. So don't send an ADIF file. Anyway, confirming the contact with the Logbook of the World can really help somebody out. They may need Nevada for an award. Then go up to 3830scores.com and you can post your summary. Remember back I had that little scores box on the window? Well, that has all the information to go to 3830 scores. You can post your contact summary so everybody else can see it. This is what it looks like. These are all the folks involved running limited multi-op high power. Number of contacts they've made, their multipliers, the BIC time, and their score. And as time builds up, they get higher scores. Some are a little more efficient than others, but generally, the folks with the high time are the ones with the high scores. When you go to fill this out, the entry form here at 3830 scores, it'll ask for club, and you can scroll down and take a look. But we aren't there yet, so you'll have to go to other, and then you type in, and I recommend putting in the whole name, Sierra Nevada Amateur Radio Society. Why? Because when they put that here, unlike the Arizona Outlaws Contest Club, which, you know, sits in here, it'll say Sierra, Nevada, Amateur, Radio, Society. And it spills out clear out there into the page. So it stands out like a sore thumb. But actually, it's a great flag pointing at the club, and you can spot your score in a big hurry when in the proper category. So go ahead and do that. Uh, and that. Okay, well, the work ain't done till the paperwork's finished. And once it's done, you'll probably need to do that anyway. Finally, get out there and have fun. It's a lot of fun. You'll make a lot of contacts, uh, especially DX contests. You'll work all over the world. It's really a good opportunity to get out there and do it. And it generally takes a month to half a year to see the results of the contest. Um, it used to take almost a year for most contests to get the results put back. Field day, for instance, right now is we had field days the end of June, and the reports come out in December for the December issue of QST. Um, we got the Nevada QSO party out in a month. The 7QP got done in a month last year. So uh, it may take a little while to see where you stand there in the standings. And you may be surprised. You may be at the top of a column. And that's kind of a nice feeling. Okay, even if you make only a few contacts, send in that log. And again, this is important. I got a nice certificate for first place in Nevada for a contest that I only had 5 in. Remember that file, Cabrillo file I showed you earlier? Well, this is what I got for sending it in. Yep, there I am. Yep, first place. Single band or single operator, all band, Nevada. With 32 points. Well, we can kind of block that out, paste a dead fly on top of it, when you put it on the wall. And that. But that's why you send in a log. And there's that log again. Here are 5 contacts. Okay, that's it. You can reach me at w6us@snars.org if you have questions. And thank you for watching. And we'll do this again.